70. I'm like, what? I was like, no, I'm gonna at least
You
get
carry far too
late
much
80s.
anxiety. You're definitely dying young.
Me?
I'm just kidding.
No one's gonna watch because we missed last week's. It's my fault.
True.
Wait, tell us
Went to
about it,
Canada.
Harley.
Tell us about what? Living
Podcast?
forever or dying early?
No, about the podcast you listen to about living.
Only the good die young, I hear.
Yeah, that's why I'm definitely not dying early. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'll pull up the name. I think it's called like Modern Wisdom or something like that. It's some guy with an accent. He's fairly articulate and entertaining to listen to, and he has good guests. So, anyways, it's called Modern Wisdom. And essentially, he had this like modern Buddhist monk on, and the guy's backstory, the monk's backstory, was that he grew up in Germany and pursued like higher level university education. And then after he graduated or somewhere along the way, he decided it just wasn't for him because he is, of Asian culture and has been practicing like Shaolin Kung Fu his entire life. So that was like his outlet. And he just decided that like this conventional way of life wasn't for him. And then he just like went off to study how to become a monk. And then he's goes on apparently a bunch of podcasts and stuff and interviews sharing the wisdom. So he's like trying to share the philosophy of his lifestyle with the modern world, and apparently he gets some backlash for it. One of the things he discussed was that people discuss or consider that like living forever and all eternity is a good thing, but essentially like the problems and turmoils of life is what keep us going. Essentially, that's what I took away from it. Was it like, if you had a perfect life, you would no longer have questions. So like your curiosity would be like,
dude, that's why
like
I'm in favor of living forever. That's why, because I love that shit.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's funny that you said that he was getting a lot of backlash for that.
People want a good life.
Well, I think that people just.
I think it was more of like the teaching should be sacred within their temples.
Oh, okay.
That's the type of backlash.
It's like the Navy SEAL backlash when the SEALs come on podcasts and release all the secrets, and then the other SEALs get upset.
I think so.
Yeah.
It was only an hour-long podcast. It was like really pretty short, concise, but like just good stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. I still sustain my statement.
You still
I want to live forever.
No.
Well, I want to live until Ruth dies, and then maybe I would like want to live until her kids, and then it would just keep going. I think that'd be. I would just
But
be
then
excited.
you just like outlive like all your people. I feel like
That's
that
okay.
would just be weird or be hard. Not weird, hard.
Well, so that's the thing though. Like, what if you like were the Highlander? Shout out if anybody knows what that is. And you live forever because you acquired all of the other Highlanders' powers.
And then you just acquire more people, and then you live
So
with
like
those people.
No. In the Highlander, there can only be one, and they're immortal basically, and they live for a long time. And the point is, like, would you really want to like live that long? Or like Wolverine is obviously a better character that most people would know that lives through decades and centuries. And I don't think it would be as depressing as people perceive it to be.
I mean, we live through our animals' lives, right? Like there's the whole saying of like, they're only a part of your life, but you're their entire life. So you want to treat the dog well, right? Or your pet well.
Aww.
But like that said, like we often will move on to the next pet, not out of like disregard for the value that the previous pet brought you, but like grief and acceptance go kind of hand in hand, right? Like they build upon each other and you have to eventually move on. So I think if you lived lived longer than other people you loved in your life, like that would be very hard. But I think we do that to a degree for people who have, animals. So don't get me wrong, like there's that big argument of like, are dogs the same as children, or like do they add as much value? But it's like,
yes,
anyone who's had, a dog for its entire life or for a large lifespan and saw it to its end type of thing, like that we all just describe our dogs as family, right? Like we all share that bond. So
yeah, I think it's a microcosm of a bigger thing that you hope never happens to anyone of what you're talking about. Like you get to experience the most tragic, like that would be the most tragic thing is losing. I think now at this point of being a parent is like losing your child would be the most tragic thing. And when you think about like living forever, like the drive behind it, why I said that before we got on was because, watching Ruth, it's like, I want to watch her do everything, like grow through everything. And like to do that, there's a level of like, I got to like live longer, and like, which is crazy because this is cool because we're going to talk about coaches education and like all this other stuff. But like that requires me to eat right, exercise, like all the things that we talk about, to give myself the opportunity to live that long. Look at Harley's laughing because it is crazy. It's crazy.
Wait, you're gonna live forever just by eating like whole foods, mostly protein.
I'm gonna live a lot
seeds,
longer than
fruits,
people who are eating
whatever.
processed food. You eat McDonald's or Tim Hortons every day, you are not gonna live as long as I am.
What was it?
Genetics do play role.
What's Tim Hortons nickname?
I don't know. They're the Timbits. I don't know. I'm not really. I just say it because I know that people.
Were you saying
Oh
Tim?
no,
Tim Hose? Is that what you said?
T-Hose? Yeah.
Oh,
Well, it's like Tim Hortons bagels. It's tea bags. No, hoe bags.
Oh, Hobart.
I didn't know that.
I don't know.
But anyway,
I thought Trevor said that.
I have no idea.
Anyways, we're on to really good.
Maybe
topics
Sophia
now.
could enlighten us. It's like Dunkin' Donuts for those people who don't live on the East Coast. No, yeah, just it's like that's the endeavor of living longer, and you have to like take that on. And it's crazy to me now. Everyone's like, "Oh, things change when you're a parent," and it's like, I mean, not a whole lot changed for me. Just my view, like we're talking about. Like you brought up the monk whose view changed, went to secondary education, and decided like the things that he held near and dear to his heart just got amplified more, and now he's spending time trying to get other people to get amplified through that process of what he found of value.
But do you think your view changed, or do you just think that?
No, I said amplified. I think I've always kind of wanted to live forever. I think it's amplified and solidified more by a bigger driver. Because before it was like, oh, I want to live as long. I want to outlive Marissa. And then now it's like, well, now I want to outlive Ruth. Like,
you're just so competitive. You're like, I'm going to live so much longer.
That's what it is.
The competition never ends.
No, it's competing for the sole fact of like, I'm curious, like Harley was saying, like I'm curious to see what life holds, like what they develop into. Like, because at this point in stage, like I think I'm gotten to the point now where I'm like, I don't want to say I'm wholly developed, but I don't know how much more development as a human being I'm personally going to have, other than like the stuff we do and the interactions that we have. And like Heather and I were talking, and Marissa brought this up driving to Canada back, of how like a while back we talked about writing a book, and we have like 12 chapter names and like the name of the book. And so we're like going through stuff. And I was just saying how like it would be relieving to me to get a book out. And I think that's how people are like, get a lot of catharticism of like putting this stuff out, of like coaching and what we've experienced and stories that we've experienced, and obviously like deleting people's names and stuff, but sharing that process of what people have gone through the many, many years now of running affiliates, coaching elite athletes, seeing the connections of those athletes, the troubles that people see and face in fitness, how like just a ton of different things and that we could organize and conceptualize and like leave for people to read. Because knowing that I'm not going to like live forever, it feels like good that I can share my personal experience of my life and the things that I've done through that process, and then have other people read it and enjoy it. But then also like that goes into the idea of living forever, to watch Ruth and see what she does, see, what quote unquote book she writes is really intriguing to me. And I was like thinking about that a lot over the course of everything. And I think, and then Jace comes through with his cool thing in our Slack group. And I was just like, fuck, man, that's crazy. Like that's because I'm thinking these things. Well, when he came through with his video on the Slack.
What? I missed it.
Oh, you missed it. It was amazing. So it's long.
I won't
watch it some other time.
In the water cooler. Okay, it's 9 minutes. Got it.
Yeah, it's 9 minutes. Watch some other time.
Harley did not ask me to do this. Got it.
Yeah, he's
cool.
sharing.
I haven't seen it at all.
He's sharing his story, and I have so much to say on it, but I want to let it simmer there for his story, because it's impactful and powerful. And those of us in the pack group on Slack, make sure you give it some time. You watch it, you let it sink in, hear the things he says, and it's just like I think about that, and it's like that's internally where I'm like, oh man, the stories of human life is why I want to live forever, because I like that's where I get the value from it. Because if I'm gone, I don't get to enjoy that human life. I don't get to enjoy that
But
story.
I think that like even writing this book is like this legacy you leave to Ruth and to Ruth's kids and beyond and beyond and beyond, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's something really powerful in that. Like, me even just saying this out loud because I haven't actually read it start to finish. But my great grandfather, who came from Italy, well, he was technically born here. His parents came from Italy. Like, he has a book called The Lucky Pesky. He's written 2 books about his life and like the origins of being a first generation Italian in the United States. And it's like, yeah, like that's a legacy. And like the fact that I even know about it, a couple generations later. And like when I went to Italy on my honeymoon, I got to like share that with CJ of like, oh yeah, like this is our generational lineage. And like, this is like the generations that came before us in the United States. And here's a way that we can commemorate that. And we found it while we were on our honeymoon, found a copy of it, an autographed copy of it that had his signature in it from just someone online. And we just ordered it right away, of course. So like, that's something that you would do by writing that book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it would be coaching and like fitness related, but still it'd be cool.
Well, but I mean, just anyways, like it's something that your descendants can like look back upon and be like, wow, like this is what my, great grandfather spent his time doing. And there's that saying also where it's like you die twice. It's like it's when you actually die, and it's when people stop saying your name or remembering your name.
Yeah.
So that's sort of a deeper underlying one.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
by leaving, whether or not you prioritize like a legacy or not, but making a lasting impact on people around you, I think is the value that we hold and the power that we hold as coaches.
Yeah. And I think everybody has that power. Like, I think that's the biggest thing.
Everyone has the opportunity of,
sure.
of developing that power, but I don't think many people do.
Correct. Yeah. Or people like think they want to, and then they got help themselves, and then they're like, I want to help everybody with this thing. And then sometimes it's like, I don't know, man.
Well, their hearts are in the right place.
Yeah. We talked about that a little bit too, because I was also like a little bit reminiscing, but shout out Heatwave Visual if you guys want to get some sick sunglasses. I know everybody else not sponsored. I used to work for them, but over Memorial Day, they donated $30,000 to Air Force, Army, Navy SEALs foundations. And it's a great company. And I was thinking about it because I was like, oh, if I wasn't doing all this stuff and like working, like we work really hard. We all do. I know all the work everybody puts in, all of our coaches in the gym, outside of the gym, in the program design, everything else. And like how hard we work. It's like, oh, I would have been doing that still, which would have been a great job. And like they're giving back in their own way. And we were just discussing like, would I have been happy versus like going into the coaching space or just staying in the media marketing realm and the product, I don't know what you want to call it, like product generation, creating sunglasses and designs and working with Justin and everything else. Like, I don't know, but they're doing it, they're crushing it. And it's just crazy how like when you look at your life or you think of like, oh, I want to live forever and the stories and everything, it's like how those paths just completely, like I know I use a lot of those skills now, like the photography, some of this stuff, like it's pretty easy for me to understand YouTube, and like same thing with Harley, like he learned those skills on his own and like you spend a lot of time doing it, but how different they are, but how intertwined they are is really crazy too, to think about of like, was I supposed to work there to give me the opportunity to, to do this stuff now and like leverage that skill set? Like, cause I think about like living forever in the waste. I thought about this too. And maybe cause I'm getting older, I was like, man, like my life's like over. Basically, like looking at Ruth, it's like it's almost done, dude. I'm getting so old now.
I saw a thing that 38 was middle age.
Yeah,
so you're right.
Based on the descending average of
getting on the descent.
You're right at the apex
I'm at the apex, so maybe that's why I'm having these thoughts. But yeah, I just think about it. I'm like, man, did I waste? I feel like I wasted that time then, but now I don't think I did, because it gave me those skills and tools that we use a lot in what we do every day as coaches and everything else. But it's like hard. Like you look back and you think about those things, and definitely having Ruth has made me be more introspective about this idea of like living forever, longevity, making better choices, being a better person, like all of those things, and being a better coach. And like, how do you improve that? And like, I'm not perfect by any means, and I still have a lot of fucking work to do, but it's pretty crazy to like think about that and look at it and look at the business and growth and coaching. And like, then Jace coming in with that, hitting us with the video and like it's just cool. It's cool. And like, that's where I think, I don't know why I wanted to start it on that, but yeah, the coach's education, good coach, bad coach, or like good program, bad programming, like seems like surface level stuff, but it's, I was talking to a couple of coaches today, giving them some development. It's like, it has to be your top priority and excitement to coach these things. Like we were doing inverted ISO hold. It's like, that's kind of boring, right? And why are people coming in for their general physical preparedness doing, and it was in a superset, so it wasn't the only thing they're doing, but why are we getting them to hold right here with a maximal contraction overcoming isometric? Like you as the coach have to be so hyped to do that for them. And they might be hyped themselves coming in, but you got to be hyped, because then I think about like what Jace said about there's a part in there. I don't want to ruin it for you, Harley, but just to give people context, there's a part in there where Jace says there were times where he wanted to send you a text message that was just like, I fucking want to quit this shit. But he never sent it. And I think that's like not just CrossFit. Don't laugh. Don't say anything. Don't say anything next. If you're going to laugh,
go ahead.
But that's just like and I was telling Heather, as coaches, like that is the small expression of everything, of fucking life. Like there are days where you just want to, I fucking quit this.
Well, I feel like that. I mean, conversely, like I think sometimes as coaches, you say it all the time, Todd. It's like, I quit. I can't handle it. Right. And it's like, I don't think it's just from an athlete perspective as well. I think sometimes it's from our perspective as well.
Yeah. It gets tough. You want to quit. You want to send that text message. I quit.
Right.
But like, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about that. And as coaches, we have to come into the class or come into our training, coaching review through Coach RX or the communication through text, and help people really go like, I don't want to quit. I don't want to. And how do you get them to like not want to quit? Right. But it's really just a thing where they know that it's good for them. And they know that struggle, like Harley was saying with the Buddhists, of like the trials of life is what it's about. And it was just crazy that Jace amplified that for something that I was already looking and thinking about. And like in this whole thing of like living longer, what is my legacy? What are we doing? How are we getting better? Where is these things going? Why are we doing this? Why do I come in every day like full of energy? And how do I muster that to help my coaches muster that? Because there are days where like some of these coaches come in, I'm like, yeah, you're kind of flat. Like, don't be flat.
I'm flat. Tyler, what were you going to say? Second go.
Well, I was going to say, like, to finish Jace's thought, he said that he wanted to send that text message, but deep down he knew that he didn't actually want to send it. And I think that that's the important thing of like, everybody has days where they're like, I'm done with this. This is dumb. This isn't working. But they know that quitting isn't actually what they want, even in that moment, as bad as they don't like the moment.
Yeah. And as coaches, we have to like continue to be that rock and that person that hypes them up and gets them going. And like he touches on that about how Harley was that person for him. And not just Harley, but his like everything, his community, the Slack, us, myself, so many things. And it's like, that's as coaching, like that's the number one priority. Like the number one priority is you got to be the fucking rock, whether you want to be or not. Like you got to be the legacy. You don't want to live forever. So then you can have every single member come in and be like, damn, every day this motherfucker is hyped up about goddamn PVC pipe pass-throughs. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think about how simple that is. And I do, like I've shared with Heather, there are days when I'm driving in the gym and I'm like, I just don't got it. Like I literally don't got it. And I'm driving in, I'm like, all right, man, you got 20 minutes to like choose.
Right.
You know, and it's not every day, but like every time that happens, I'm like, all right, dude, the people need you, and you got to give the people what they want.
Yeah.
But I think about that a lot, and I'm like, oh man, that's crazy though, because at the end of the day, I'm getting way more from that than, well, not way more, because people are changing their life and pushing off comorbidities and living longer. So those are all positive things. But I do get so much more for myself than I think any of us realize, like as coaches. So much more development, so much more mindset stuff, so much more resolve. I get the opportunity. We all do. We get the opportunity to look at two happenings of the same thing at one time. Like I have this example right now. Two athletes have sustained the same injury, and their paths of that are wildly different of even though they're the same and the protocols of recovery are the same and everything else, but like how they're doing that. And I get
Well,
to
their approach to
their
these.
approach,
Yeah.
like how they're viewing it, their mindsets, their everything. But I get to watch two different processes. Harley will correct me.
processes.
Of how they're going. And I get that experience now. Like if it ever happens to me, I now have I have two learned experiences. It's crazy. And I didn't do, oh yeah, balloons.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything other than sit back and help coach and support these people and like live with them through the process. It's wild.
Yeah, I think like going back to you looking in the hypothetical mirror, saying you have 20 minutes to pull it together to make that choice. Like, am I going to
It's not
bring it to
hypothetical. I do that.
you stare in the mirror and you're just like,
I don't stare in the mirror. Oh yeah,
you
okay.
can do
Mirror
it.
is hypothetical. I do it. I hold my steering wheel really, really tight, and I'm like, oh, just kidding.
So you just like hold on to it and just scream. I'm just kidding. Dumpster fire in the background, just like everything's fine.
No.
I'm just kidding. But what I was gonna say on a real note was that there are so many days like when I was training higher level CrossFit that you just start moving. Like I just tell myself, fake it till you make it. Like you're just gonna start going through the motions. Like do your warm up with intention. You're gonna feel better or you won't. And it's like you get to the barbell. And it's like, all right, just try. Just start snatching. Just start warming up your snatch. Like overhead squat, tall snatch. Try to be fast. And you just take it literally just one step at a time. And eventually it gets better. Like, and you are like, cool, I overcame this like resistance. We've talked about resistance before and other, that theory of resistance. And like you've overcome that mental block, that emotional stress, that weight that's sort of sitting on your shoulders. And it's like, you can still leave the gym feeling that you gave the best effort you had in that moment. So then like as a coach, I always come in and I'm just like, I always will have small talk with people. Like when I have the opportunity to be like, just, hey, how are you today? And like, even if I'm not the most energetic moment of myself, like I'm very monotone most of the time, I always can stand on just checking in with people, saying hi, making a dumb joke here or there, and then just like standing on points of performance and facts and like here's your clean drill. Like this is why we're doing it. And because at the very least, like I know I can provide a consistent service, but I'll never like give up that, right? Like I may not always be like the most outgoing, bubbly, chipper version of myself, but I always stand on like consistency of delivery of information.
Yeah. Yeah, that just also takes energy though. That's what I like.
Oh, for sure. It takes energy, but
yeah.
like,
You don't gotta be crazy bubbly. I'm not, you guys know me. I'm not like that, but I'm more like Harley, what you say, consistency of information and like excitement because we're doing these things because I know how good and valuable they are. And I think you feel the same way. But
yeah,
that was
I think excitement is where I interpreted that as bubbly, right? Like and energy. It's like I may not always be like the most chipper, but like at the same time, I'm always going to take the time to like talk to you about it, especially if you have questions. It's one day last week, someone asked me what the stimulus of a session was, and I was covering the 5 a.m. class, and it was like 2 minutes before the 1 minute before the clock was going to start.
5
You're
a.m.
gonna just wreck your body metabolically,
like,
heart rate increased, and then the blood lactate.
Do they know that that's not a 5 a.m. question?
Just get on the rower.
So the session was machine for a certain amount of calories, some burpees, and then 5 power snatches. And you can add weight to your snatches if you feel good. Like you just build by feel on the snatch, but it's basically just aerobic stimulus, pre-fatigue into 5 snatches, right? You can power, you can squat, you can do singles, you can do touch and go, just like 5 reps based on what loading and where you're at in your development and how you manage the aerobic fatigue, right? Like some people are not aerobic and they're going to be suffering by the time it gets to the bar.
So what was the stimulus though, Harley?
So I just said, it depends.
It always depends.
It always depends.
I know. I was like,
for the old people.
I was just like,
Always.
yeah, like you're going to have a high heart rate and you're going to move that bar. And he goes, are we supposed to be lifting heavy? I was like, you're supposed to go by feel. If you feel good, go heavy. If you don't, stay light. And he goes, okay. He finishes round 1 and he goes, you should have just told me to do round 1 and I would figure it out. And I said, you got it, bud.
Just kidding.
Because he goes, I'm not going up in weight now. I'm
Yeah.
like, yep, you're
Well,
right.
you know what's crazy is like, and you know this, and I'm just gonna add the layer for the listeners, is like that workout. Let's like individual design mindset. That workout could be applied to 40 different individual athletes with different notes
Mhm.
to create different stimulus, right?
And even just tiny tweaks to the reps too,
Right,
right? Like
which is
tiny
crazy.
tweaks to the time domain of each portion of it.
And
Yeah,
it'll
and
something
loading.
different. It'll make something different. So like that athlete from his response is working on a aerobic power endurance thing. Because he was like, you just tell me to do one round, I'm not going up in weight. So he's muscle endurance and aerobic endurance, power endurance, not like aerobic endurance. That's what he was working on for that day. You might have somebody else who is like, oh, I'm gonna just like chill on these other things, you know, build up a little fatigue, but then I want to snatch super heavy and see what I do with a zone 3 heart rate snatch.
Right.
That's very different because that would now be strength endurance. You got two people. That's just two people. You got two people going through the same workout at the same time in the same class with the same coach, getting different adaptations.
So we had a few
Whatever.
people who are a little bit more experienced, a little bit fitter. They got up to like 205 for the guy, 155 for the girl in the 5 power snatches by the end of the session. Really heavy. I was like, that's awesome. Because after round 1, that guy who was able to lift super heavy by the end of it was like, yeah, this time domain is actually pretty tight because it was like every 5 minutes or every 6 minutes, right? He's like, it's actually pretty tight. I was like, you have to be comfortable holding your pace and know that you'll always get a minute rest. You just hit 5 smooth singles. You'll always get a minute rest. Get back on your machine. Hold your pace. It'll be okay. That dude added 20 pounds every single set, got up to 205 and was like, oh, that was a great session. That other dude, the guy who asked what the stimulus was, he equally had 1 minute rest, same experience on the machines and time domain, but he didn't have the aerobic fitness or the tolerance of barbell repeatability and strength endurance to go up in weight. So he stayed at 115 the entire time and was like, that's really hard for me. I'm like,
before we go into continued education, just taking that person, the avatar, how would you get them to then have the same experience as the first person that you, I know it's like they're not really the middle guy, the middle person.
Yeah. Like the 205 snatcher,
right? 205 snatcher. How do you get the 115 snatcher to the 205 snatcher?
Well,
one, I don't think the guy who could snatch the 115 could snatch 205 one
time. There you
go.
go.
That's step one, is just making him stronger as a whole.
Strength and, development.
For sure. He is super aerobically powerful. He's one of our guys in the gym that's like 6'11". Like we have 3 guys, or we used to have 3 guys that are. He's probably never snatching 205.
It's so far to go.
What's crazy is Luke snatches 200 or 205, and he's 7 foot. That's wild. He moves incredibly well for a 7-footer, which is wild to watch.
Luke in your gym, I'm assuming.
Yeah, Luke in my gym. Yeah,
not Parker.
I was like, dang, Luke is tall, but he's 7 feet. No way.
No. This guy named Luke in our gym, he is about 7 feet.
It makes it harder when you're taller. We know that. Sure. All right, move on.
All right. Yeah. So you build absolute strength, and then you continue to progress the ability to repeat moderate loads. Once the absolute strength has been built, then you can transition the priority to building out the battery and the repeatability. And then in conjunction with that, in either a separate session or at the end of the session, you should be doing aerobic power work where you're sustaining threshold efforts and being comfortable at that sort of sub-maximal output.
With all that to be said, he's probably not going to achieve that in class. All right.
Well, I hope that he still gets fitter, because we'll be doing stuff like that for the next 6 to 8 weeks. So
he will get fitter. You can guarantee that, because like we even talked about today with some of the coaches, is like the difference between burn boot camp and what we do is that what we do is proven and tested, and you're going to get strength adaptations, muscle endurance adaptation, like all the right, quote unquote, right training.
Yeah.
And burn boot camp is going to be fun and exciting, and you still burn calories, and you get, work out with your friends, and you get sweaty. Nothing wrong with it. Get people moving, but it's not complete the way a strength and conditioning CrossFit style, mixed modal style program is.
So given that athlete, let's say hypothetically that said athlete improves his absolute strength, gets a snatch to 225, hypothetically, right? Through a year of snatch development, specific work. From there, I would probably build out a very similar workout structure as that, but instead of being machine, burpee, and then snatch, it would probably just be machine and snatch, or even just snatch cluster sets on its own, and just building out the ability to snatch like 75% over and over and over again.
Let's go, baby. All right.
Okay, question.
If that
Question.
member
Though.
is watching.
The guy that did 205 is just
Yeah.
a GPP guy.
He used to be really competitive. He's pretty fit.
Wow. Okay,
Oh,
that was
so
good.
he
That
went
was
through
my
he went through
question.
the process.
My question
Hey,
was like
yes.
he went through the
No,
process.
we're
then.
gonna
He didn't
ignore
get there through GPP.
athlete history. Okay, Heather?
All right.
Athlete history doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for the general person. Everybody ignores it anyways.
Yeah, I mean that guy's been a member at the gym for
I'm
I'm
like
so
that
fit.
guy
I've
get
been
there?
doing this for 20 years. Follow this program. I went to the CrossFit Games. You could do low intensity training and look like me.
yeah, get lit, homie.
Oh my God.
Just
Anyways,
do CrossFit slower.
all right. Continued education. With all that to be said, we talked about life, living forever, and a cool example of how you would make someone snatch better in snatch repeatability work or snatch ladders.
And
Nice
what's
one.
the stimulus? Yeah.
The stimulus can be different across each individual and what they're trying to achieve and where their sticking point is and where their set point is for that day. Now, could you make workouts that everyone gets the same stimulus in a class? You very well could, but we won't go into that. All right, continued education. I mean, Harley, you give people rowing, burpees, and box jumps. They're all going to get the same adaptation.
No, it's lazy programming.
That's true. But it gives general physical preparedness and
It's
metabolic
lazy
condition.
programming. It's not good enough for
Oh,
everyone.
How many people have told you that in the last
Only
month?
one. Only one.
Oh wow.
Let's see. What does Marissa say? I'm still waiting for my overnight results from doing low intensity training from former games athletes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that. You're going to be waiting a long time. Let's see. Nate Hall, he was talking about, he said, that was me last Thursday before the 5K bike, 2K row, 100 burpee broad jumps. I wrote that for class. It's pretty sick. Made Nate do it. He didn't want to do it. He was about to text me and say, I quit. That's what he's referring to.
CJ did something like that, right?
Yeah, dude. It's called CrossFit conditioning. I've been doing a lot of like CrossFit conditioning. Like if you look at old school, like 333 style,
Mhm.
you know, that mindset.
I don't know what that is.
Where you
Please
do
elaborate.
3K row,
Like what? Really?
300 double unders, and a 3-mile run. It was performed at the CrossFit Games in 2014 and then repeated at regionals in 2018. And it is why they now have the 4K run, the rowing, and the 4K, or is it 2-mile? 4-mile, whatever, 3K row, 2-mile run at this year's coming CrossFit Games. It's classic. It's within the design of CrossFit. It's a good way to build aerobic mixed modal endurance, especially for athletes like Nate and CJ, who are more developed than the general population person.
I
Now,
thought that the first event of the games was because of Jerry.
oh, that too. There's also another example of a 1-mile run. What's the row in that one? And then
2K.
1-mile run, 2K, 1-mile run, 2K, 1-mile run. Very similar of those types of formats. So all the, classic stuff. Where's
Marissa.
Are you insinuating that all workouts are
A derivative.
derivative of other workouts? Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Constantly varied functional movements. I mean, like
That's
kind of varied functional
Lazy-
movements performed
lazy
in a repetitive sequence. Got it.
Yeah, constantly varied functional movements that were created from the base workouts that you could see on .com for multiple years and influenced by people's biases who never changed their thought processes.
Check.
It's like you practice that.
How about that? How about that? Mouse? Anyways,
What was it? What was the first workout? It's like run fast, lift heavy. No. Move fast, lift heavy. No, that's
that's something else.
that's something else.
No, run fast, lift heavy was the shuttles and
Shuttle
jerks.
run and jerks.
That was a good workout too.
First workout in the games had a name though.
Marissa, let's get that on a shirt.
Which
For
one?
sure.
Which thing?
Move fast, lift heavy. I don't know.
I don't know. But the long ass thing I said probably. Good
Or
on a shirt.
maybe.
Fitness in like 37 words by
Yeah,
Todd.
there it is. Just do all the same thing that we're all doing. Oh man. All right. Coach's education. Good coaching, bad coaching, good programming, bad programming. Let's get into it. That was a long intro. I'm glad you guys are with us. I think that opened people's minds up. Yeah, the long ass thing I said.
Yeah,
it was like
that is
37 it was
funnier.
more than
You're right.
37 words. All right.
Conclusion, just for everyone's sanity, because everyone's dwelling on it. I know the first workout on CrossFit.com was called Fast and Heavy.
Oh, fascinating. Perfect. What was the workout? Just so we 'Cause you're already bringing
for
it up.
everyone's sanity. Yeah. So it's 21 dumbbell thrusters, 400 meter run, 18 dumbbell thrusters, 400 meter run, 15 dumbbell thrusters, 400 meter run.
I've done that workout. They actually
Mm.
they've
I have a few
done
times.
that workout video. The guy did it in Tahoe. It's
Mhm.
on YouTube. But you know
Was-
what's crazy to
Was
think
that
about?
the
Firstworkout.com uses what implement?
dumbbell
Dumbbells.
thruster?
Dumbbells, baby.
Dang.
Wild.
Where was that Tahoe video you're talking about where it was Rogue versus Move
Oh no,
Fast?
it was just the work. It was just like, you know how they used to do the workout demos,
Yeah,
the workout of the
for
day.
sure.
It was just
Yeah.
like that. Some guy doing it. That's a hard workout, dude. It sucks.
It
Some
sucks.
people would say no. Like they're like Jace is in the comments right now, and I'm sure he'd do that workout and be like, that was easy. And I would tell you, yeah, you're right. For me, that workout sucks.
There's no prescribed weight. Submit body weight because load value is based on percentage of body weight.
Oh, that's cool.
Sick.
What's the percentage of body weight?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
Oh shit. I like that though. I mean, if you do 20% of your body weight at 200-pound male, it's gonna be the 40-pound dumbbells.
You want to know what's funny is they spelled dumbbell wrong. There's only one B. They pulled a Todd.
Yeah, dude. It's cool. All right. Anyways, continued education. Spelling and grammar is a continued education for a coach. I missed that seminar and lecture. Let's make the assumption, just to set the stage here. Someone either, because you don't have to go to classic education and get an exercise science degree. We all know that, to stand in front of people and coach them in movement. There are no board, there's no licensing, there's nothing. So any dummy right here, you're looking at one, can stand in front of you and tell you how to air squat, which is actually a good thing. I think that's okay that they do that. But let's say you either have an exercise science degree, or you have your CrossFit level 1, or you have one personal training certification from NSCA, NSAM, ACE. What are the other ones? NCSF.
ISSA.
There's one more, a big one that I think we're not, but it doesn't matter.
NASM.
Yeah, NASM and NASM. Cool.
Oh, did you say ACSM?
I did.
That's another
right.
one. Okay.
Yeah, sick. So you get any of those, because those are all the big ones, not your High Rocks coaching certification. Even though it's good, it's good.
Dude,
Continue.
they're covering so much stuff in depth.
They do a good
in
job.
That intro, I was like, holy shit.
Do
I'm
a
still on
really
the physiology module, and they go into some pretty detailed stuff. I'm like, no one who doing High Rocks needs to know this.
No, they
Yeah.
do though. The coaches do.
mean,
Okay, let's
I
not get
know,
this. Hold
I
on.
know.
Continued education. Hold on, because that is a very good course, honestly. And there's so much shit in there that I'm like, damn. Okay, this is good. They're teaching people how to write good training to get you good at endurance. Which, if you get just your level 1, you don't know shit about fuck.
Mhm.
Whereas you get your level 1 for High Rocks, you know way more about endurance than almost any endurance course I've taken, to be honest. It is the best module style, self-learning, self-paced endurance course that I have ever seen. So that's one. Continuing education. Your High Rocks level 1 for
It's
endurance.
apparently good.
It's really good. It takes some time though, but it's really good. Really good. Really, really good. All right, continuing education. Anybody else got some other ones? Why is
Yeah, so you described yourself as an idiot for not having an exercise science degree, but telling people how to squat. I'm the dummy that by my sophomore or junior year in college realized that if I want to open a gym, I did not need that 4-year
so
degree.
I might be ahead of the curve.
Smarter. Yeah, you might be more intelligent than
That's
I
good.
am.
Well, get me
Because
on
I-
business.
It took me a few years to realize, hey, I don't need this degree to be doing the career path that I want to do. So, anyways,
It's helpful though.
I still got it. I have it. It is what it is. That said, yeah, I lately have sort of resparked a pursuit of furthering education. Not that I've ever stopped really learning. I've just sort of done it in other modes. I haven't really taken a seminar. Took a gymnastics seminar last November, but other than that one, I hadn't taken one in probably about 3
Fizzled
years.
out all your enthusiasm because it sucked.
Huh?
It fizzled out all your
Mhm.
enthusiasm because the gymnastics CrossFit.
No, it was enjoyable. It actually re-sparked a lot of enthusiasm, and I brought a lot of information back to the gym and tried to really elevate. And then
Sorry, I
the
was here.
lack of
Not that
application,
seminar, I'm sorry.
the lack of application through the gym is what zapped my enthusiasm, because I'm like, no matter what I do, it's not going to get better. So we'll see. I'm just kidding. It's gotten better, but we'll
So you're excited about learning again?
trying to feel that. Yeah, just starting to feel that. And I think the High Rock Seminars course is helping with that a little bit. I'm going to take a seminar with a friend for tactical strength conditioning through NSCA here in the next month, which will be fun because I get to just go hang out with my friend for 4 days at a seminar. So that'll be a good time. But anyways, I think continued education is a staple in a coach's willingness to continue to better themselves. And I think that leading by example, whether you're a coach who has their own physical endeavors or you're a coach who's trying to improve the ability of your service and your ability to provide information to your athletes, that's your role. That is a non-negotiable, just as your athlete's role of training is their non-negotiable.
Yeah.
So I think that we, just as much as we would describe that the athlete's job is to do their training, put in their feedback, handle their recovery, and do that to their best degree, our job would be to continue challenging ourselves, our perspective, having conversations at the very least with people that we respect in the industry to push our perspective farther and like elevate our ability to improve.
I mean, there's different forms of education, continuing education too. Like you listed seminars, there are online modules and so many other things out there. Mentorships, I think, are probably the most superior. Once you've gotten some of that classical education, I think having somebody either look over your program designs, help watch you in the gym coach, watch you with other athletes. Sophia right now is going to school for exercise science, but has gotten an internship with U of R in their sports medicine rehabilitations and performance center. So like she's going to learn a ton of stuff, and they're already giving her things to do where like they're doing the force plates and they're teaching her how to use force plates, and she's super hyped up on it. She's in the background listening right now. And then I like explain things to her about the force plates because I've used them, and I'm like laughing because it's funny to watch because it's cool. It's cool for her. It's a new experience. And it's an experience that I've already had. And I just like am liking reliving that experience and like seeing how excited she is, and then giving the opportunity to like explain to her eccentric and like reloading phases and like basically like force, like I don't know what I want to even like divulge because it'll take too long. Point is like load, explode, bounding mechanics on a force plate. And then she's happy about it, excited about it, but like you're going to learn from this person that is doing this every day with these people, creating a system. And that's the bigger thing, I think, beyond like book learning or course learning or seminar learning, is that in mentorship learning, you have an opportunity to put it into practice and see how this works and how it all goes together in a system or a format that the person that you're mentoring from uses or does, or just how they do things. Because I think you would agree, Harley, that most of the seminars are just knowledge, raw knowledge, but most of the time not very actionable in how to apply that. Now, the Hyrox one does give you a lot of action, though. I like that.
That's
but
good.
Most of them don't.
Yeah, I think that I've had a lot of conversations. I think that you and our respective stories of like, oh, this dummy can teach you an air squat, and I'm over here like I sat through far too much time and getting book knowledge, but without application. It's like the person who has all the certifications but no real world experience is not the better coach. They may have the opportunity to become a more, effective coach through training and practice, but without training, practice, and learning how to apply said information, like it's useless. If you cannot convey information and share the knowledge that you have, I would argue that knowledge is kind of useless. So
we've just like beyond sharing it, like you're saying, like it's one thing for us to share stuff amongst each other or with people and just say the thing versus getting them to do the thing.
Yeah,
as a coach.
Yeah. So action, application, and effectiveness, are all one and the same in a way. I mean, you can have action that's not effective, and you can apply things that, aren't effective. But ideally, if you have sound logic and rationale behind it, and you, again, have learned either through your own experimentation or other people's experience, it's going to ideally work faster than, sooner than later. And to your point about mentorships, like I think standing on the shoulders of giants and or utilizing other people's experiences to shorten your learning curve is where, our development can happen faster than theirs. So we might as well use the network you developed. But also, like from an athlete perspective, if your coach hypothetically has, either been an athlete themselves or they have learned from others who have worked with more athletes than ideally they can take those narratives, those stories, those anecdotes, and apply them to your experience more effectively. Very similarly to how you shared, you had 2 athletes, same injury, 2 different experiences. Now you have double the information that you ideally can take. And maybe you have a 3rd athlete with a similar injury down the road, and you're gonna be like, all right, are you athlete A or are you athlete B? And it's like, they're probably an athlete C, but they're an athlete C that you may have to, combine some approaches with, but that's okay because you have more information already in your toolbox than you did before.
Right.
So
that's what I was going to actually say. Cause like you bring up a good point, and it's funny because Jace put in, it sounds very similar to the CrossFit doesn't make you more athletic. And it's like a thing where you did touch on like athletes who then become coaches. I don't think have as much, they can get more experience over time, but right out the gate, they don't have the experience that someone like I have or you have because of that example that you just gave about.
They have their singular experience.
Right. So you have your singular experience. Thankfully, like we all do CrossFit. So I would argue, sure, I don't have the on-floor competition experience, but bro, we do thrusters. Like both of us have done thrusters. Like I know what 21-15-9 thrusters and pull-ups feels like. I don't got to be Matt Frazier to know how hard, how painful, and how fast someone can move is. I don't need to go on the CrossFit Games competition floor, and that's the uniqueness about our sport to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just ask, like, how many? I know that some athletes can become very good coaches, but I wonder how many athletes you think would make good coaches. I don't think as many, to be honest. But
I think it only depends on what they're doing along the way throughout their athletic endeavors. So, like
it's
for example, like
it's the experiences, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and so
experiences, and they only have their experience. It's like, well, yeah, the person with 10 experiences is going to have way more information and knowledge than somebody who had 1.
Yeah, and I mean, even going back to my initial example of like the person with multiple certifications and degrees but no real world experience is still useless. Like, because they don't have the ability to apply said information effectively, or at the very least, maybe they do. Maybe they actually know how to apply it from a training standpoint, but they've never talked in front of a group or led, an athlete through an exercise. It's like they have no hands-on coaching cues, no tactile cues, visual cues or verbal cues in their back pocket. Like that's a huge issue. They're just like, I know the rectus femoris drives this movement pattern. It's like, awesome. That's fucking useless. Like,
right.
Good for you.
A squat down,
Right.
Bend your knee. Fuck. Okay. Anyways, yeah, I mean, that's like, so like you brought up like talking about good coaches and bad coaches. I guess the first question you guys, I would like to hear a response. Are there bad coaches?
If a coach is in the industry for the right reason, I think that they have good intentions, but they may not be good at their job. There are people who love making coffee, but fucking suck at making coffee. You know what I mean? Like,
true. Like me.
Like,
you're much better at making a shot of espresso than I am, for sure.
Yeah,
but it's
I think even like the point that you're like maybe trying to poke at is like, if you do have, and I should say, if you do have the right intentions of like wanting to help people, wanting to coach people and work with them, it's like being the person. I mean, I know you don't really like the cheerleader word, but you're like coming into your classes and like being so excited about whatever you're coaching
Sophia,
or teaching, right?
Look up that, whatever V-shred is. Look that up. Find that. Anyways, keep talking.
Well, I was just going to say,
I have no idea what that is.
I mean, I think maybe what you're getting at is like on the bad coach side, right? It's like maybe there isn't a bad coach in the sense if they have like the right intentions and they're trying to be excited about what they're teaching. And I think we can all agree that.
No. Keep going. Okay. Keep talking.
Well, now you're distracted.
No, just keep talking. You don't need to look at it. I'm going to look at it. Oh,
well, I'm just saying that like you're still getting people to move. You're getting them excited about fitness. You're trying to make an impact. And I think we've all like, when we first started coaching, where we've programmed things or done things and we're like, that was probably not the best thing. Right. And you're going to have to like learn through like those experiences. But,
I you're picking up what I was trying to allude to. And I think that intentions, as long as they're pure and the person's willing to be open-minded and grow from their experiences and in turn learn from others and try to improve, they will become a good coach. That doesn't mean that everyone starts as a good coach, and it doesn't mean that everyone is inherently a bad coach. I think what makes someone a bad coach is a lack of their willingness to learn new things and
Or
learn,
take feedback.
criticism,
Yeah,
feedback.
yeah.
or
Any-
learn from their own experiences.
Yeah, anything that seems resistant to their own point of view, especially when they're learning. Like it's the Dunning-Kruger effect. I think there are a lot of coaches out there who suffer from that, and that makes them a bad coach. Like they think they know more than they actually do. And when I evaluate coaches, I'm like, okay, let me see what you're doing. I don't care what you can say and what you
Mhm.
can try to convince me. And like, yeah, as long as everyone cares. I think anybody in the coaching space, I think genuinely, like we make the joke about lit, and it's like I know that they care. I know that they care, but they don't care enough to go, hold on a second. We're delivering a CrossFit program that is CrossFit. And in the notes, because I bought the program to check it out for their free trial, just to see what they're doing. And in their notes is just like, go slower, take your time, lighten up the weights if you need to. And it's like, you're just taking CrossFit and reformatting it with notes in a certain way and convincing people that the low intensity training is going to not wreak havoc on their body. And you're kind of fear mongering them into things, but their intentions are to help people because they got hurt by something and they want to share that with somebody and everything else. Where they become bad coaches, I'm only using this as an example because I'm really fired up about how dumb the lit thing is that if you tell them, which in our community, Andrew Hiller did tell them, and so did Taylor Self, and they ignore it and don't change it and don't admit like, yo, we are just reselling CrossFit. Maybe we should just either change our method and do something for real, or let people know, hey, we're just taking CrossFit and we're going to bring it down a notch for you. And we know the benefits of CrossFit and this type of training and what you're going to get from it and strength training and everything else, and go down the route of being quote unquote a good coach and omitting the truth and reality of the thing. And I think that's what you guys are talking about. Like that's a real example of, because they're very resistant. They got some feedback from the community and there has been radio silence, and they continue to sell the thing that they're trying to sell. And that's the way of the world today, and influencers and everything else. And we can't fight that because that's a never ending battle. But at the end of the day, you could have that happening inside of your CrossFit gym. You could have that happening inside of your CrossFit community or local community of fitness with fitness trainers, personal trainers, CrossFit coaches, where like Harley's saying, they're really resistant to the truth and reality of like, hey, that's not going to get people that way. And I know because I've done it, or I've seen people make that mistake, or I've gone this road, and I'm just trying to help you cut that learning curve. Like Harley said earlier, to be better, to give people the results like V-Shred, you know, it says it's going to get results for your body.
Well,
on their website.
Like in that particular incident,
Thanks a lot,
like they
Jace,
think
for the V-Shred.
They believe that
Louise.
they're servicing people in a good way.
Yeah.
That they miss the fact that like they are doing like what you guys are saying, or it's like they're just really reselling CrossFit and just telling people to go slower. So it's like, and I think because they've been doing it for so long, it's like hard for them to take the feedback because they believe in their mind that they're doing one thing when really like they're doing something else. And I think that when people are getting it, when they've been in it for so long, coaching for so long, they think that they
haven't
everything.
been coaching a long time.
I know, but I'm just saying like coaches in general, right? When they've been coaching for a really long time,
right?
They believe that they have had enough shared experience that they don't need to learn more, or that their way is going to be always correct.
Right.
Well, what's interesting about this like lit topic is that I listened to our favorite guy, Wad Science's like video on Zone 2 work, and he essentially was saying that for beginners that almost any functional movement, even body weight, performed slowly is still putting out enough power output that it elicits a high intensity response.
That's
so it's like, what?
That's the stimulus.
Yeah, the stimulus is always high intensity. And so there he was saying essentially like if you're an intermediate to advanced CrossFitter and you have been, you're proficient in all these things, you may be able to layer in some of those functional movements and still keep it in a more Zone 2-esque effect on your system. That said, I bet the people who are wanting this easy effort approach that Amanda Barnhart's selling, that's who's selling it, right?
Yeah.
They probably don't even have enough of a base to support that type of training and keep it actually low intensity. So they're they're probably trying to do that, but they're not even getting that response anyways.
Yeah,
And
with
so,
that. Oh, keep going.
anyways, I just found it interesting that like I happened to also watch that YouTube video this morning about that zone 2 approach, which I kind of laugh about because we've been talking about that type of a format
For a
and
long
through
time.
functional bodybuilding and OPEX for a really long time. And so it's like not anything new to us and people who have been
I
trying
legit
to
am like, hey, welcome to the party.
correct. Like
Been here for a while. We're already on dessert. You're up here for appetizers. Thanks for coming.
I mean, like the OPEX thing, like you did OPEX after me or before me?
Before you. I
Okay.
did it when it was still like competitive CrossFit. I didn't do it when it was GPP.
Yeah, no, I did it in 17.
Oh, well, then I did it a year before you. Anyways, go
Okay.
on.
Anyways, yeah. So yeah, it was still pretty CrossFit driven. They still had like 4 or 5 people that were supposed to be.
Go on. We were right at the
Anyways, yeah, right around the same time. But anyways, my point was that like through the MAP system of OPEX, like they've been doing essentially zone 2 CrossFit for.
They've been doing lit. They're probably so mad that they've made this program. They're looking back on what the fuck? We should have called it lit. It would have been lit.
Yeah, it's just silly like that they are trying to rebrand this thing that's been around and even like Watt Science is just putting metrics to it by using his new sensor and it seems like he's trying to like create data and a market for that new
Dude, I sign up
product he's
for that thing
developing.
every week.
Yeah.
I put in my name and my email every week because I want to be on that list and get one of those sensors when they come out.
Yeah. And so anyways, I find it interesting that it's just everything's cyclical. Another thing I find interesting is that we all do the same stuff.
The main point of that for the like good coaching, bad coaching is bringing that up and like bringing it to light of what that is and using them as an example. And I'm again, like Heather was saying, and you guys have been saying, their intentions are good. They want to get people fit. They want to get people healthy. They want to solve a problem. They see a problem. They may be approaching it incorrectly, or not maybe. They are approaching it incorrectly. The data is there. It's wrong. That is where I would say like, hey, if you're in a CrossFit gym or you have a coach that is like you're noticing that, I would say, and I try to say this to coaches that I notice that happen to. I'm like, look, that's not right. And if they're resistant to not hearing that and having a conversation about it, yeah, that's where I classify, bad coach.
Yeah.
That's
and so we were talking about like learning and progressing over time for yourself. One of the things I think like, and I use something like, if you have a good rationale for your decision making along the way,
no,
that's
not okay.
No, I know. Let me hear it out. Hear me out though.
Right.
One of the major principles we all would agree upon is periodization and progressive overload.
Yeah.
So like if you're only doing low intensity training all the time, where's the progressive overload? There's not. So therefore it's like there goes the whole stance I was trying to make and try to be open-minded of like, you may not be the best coach, but as long as you can rationalize stuff and you're trying to put thought behind it and you're trying to be very thoughtful, if you're rationalizing the same approach for everything week after week, day after day, forever, you know what I mean? Day after day, week after week.
Yeah, because
there's no progression.
Right. And that's
then they're just doing fitness. They're not really like
they're spinning their wheels.
Right.
Yeah,
therefore bad program.
Yeah, bad program, bad coach. Yeah. And that's a good indicator of like, using principles. Like there's, bad coaching and bad programming is under the same vein of like not using principles or using principles that they found just don't work. There's things like we use BFR a lot. I love the BFR, I like the pump of it. The real value of it is it can trick mechanical tension. But this is new in what they say. You go back 3 years ago and look at BFR, and there's like the metabolic damage, where we now know that metabolic damage does not really equate to muscle growth and like synthesis. It does sometimes incite like satellite cells and some mTOR effects, but that's not what like BFR is doing, but they used to sell it that way. And so Saga, one of the biggest BFR manufacturers, have now changed all of their stuff and gone back because they do a nice little podcast and explain things. And they're like, really what it's doing is it's allowing you to get your body to think that load that you're holding is heavier than it actually is. And that's why you're getting muscle regeneration and going like why they use in the PT world from atrophy to back to muscle growth. Now, does it do metabolic damage? Sure. the amount of percent that the metabolic damage happens is so low. It's like insignificant to make the claim that that's what it's
And it's
doing.
damaging.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like it's just trapping the blood, which then ends up making an acidic site for the muscle. And we know that, sure, can that make a muscle more enduring and make some muscle endurance effects? Yes. The amount that it's actually doing, they don't really know. And it's a point where like we can't say that it does that. Just for like efficacy of their product. And that's just like an example of something that has changed over the years, that like as a good coach versus like a bad coach, or good programming as a bad programming, is changing that thought process and saying, hey, it kind of does these things, but realistically, we're able to move weights that are lighter to save the joint and do more reps to try and get some muscle endurance, a little bit more strength adaptation without killing your body on the high intensity of load, the intensity of load, basically. And that's like the huge benefit, which will stimulate muscular regeneration. Because typically that's what it's for, is from the PT world of, you get somebody who's injured, you put them on a BFR, they're going to start regaining some of that muscle hypertrophy back. And that's just something that like not coaches need to know. But if you are doing that kind of training and using that protocol, like if you don't know that stuff, or you're keep educating yourself on that stuff, it's like, why are you using it? And why are you talking about it? Like now you become a bad coach, in my opinion, because you're talking about something that you don't really know about, and you just saw it on Instagram, or it's flashy or whatever, or like you did it one time and thought it was a value. Like, cause I love the BFR, the way it makes me feel, but I do know that like, I still got to do the other training. And there are some people out there in the world that like just do BFR and like sauna. And I'm like, dude, what's going on, man? And some of them are genetic freaks, and they look real good. So they're going to sell you on like, hey, this is my training. This is what I do. And I look great.
Or they're on drugs.
Or they're on, peptides. Yeah, that's, hey, let's not even go into that. Good programming, bad programming. You got to list the drugs that you're taking with the program that you're selling. So then that way people know, oh, I could do this program, but I also need to be taking 200, nanograms or milligrams of testosterone or whatever it is. Like,
I want to just do what Ronnie Coleman was doing.
No, you don't.
I'm just kidding.
No one.
Well, and
does.
I think going on like the bad coach too, it's like people just like feel like admitting that they were wrong, or that they changed their mind, or new information came out, like discredits them. And I think that like we need to be okay with like saying that we're still learning, or we were wrong, or new information came out, or something's changing, or whatever. And I think people just think that like if they admit that,
or I don't know.
Right. That it loses their credibility.
It's actually more empowering.
And it's not even in the coaching space. Like I remember when I used to work in like tech, and like I'd work with like a shipping company, and they like mess something up, and they would just like lie to me about why it happened. And I was like, I would just rather you just tell me that this is what happened. Yeah. And I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. And I'd work with you, as opposed to like you just like digging your heels in to like, this is what happened, because I didn't want to like admit fault. Right. And so it's like the same thing, I think, with coaching, with anything. It's like you can do something and have all the best intentions and write some program and think that this is the way to do it, and be wrong, and like I think being okay. And I think that's also how you like build a credibility with your athletes, with the people that you work with, and you build trust with them, is to admit that you may be wrong, or don't always have all the answers, or
You want to go through and summarize some of the points we talked about, what makes something good?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
so Tyler just said ownership and reflection, and acknowledging like when you don't have the answers, or maybe that you were wrong. Right. So throwing the ego aside, taking ownership for results and or the process, and maybe downfalls. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about principles, utilizing principles, and having sound rationale for your decision making. Right. So not just are you able to talk your way through it, talk your way out of it, make people convinced that you know what you're talking about, but you can actually like cite sound principles of training and show where they're applied in your training.
Yeah. And also more importantly, I put a high premium on experience. So if you've worked with 100 athletes, like Harley's, you've worked at this point, because of CrossFit affiliates that you've worked in person, personal trainers too. I think, and bodybuilders are the one I always go to, because people will like say something like, yeah, but I don't need science to tell me that works. Because I see a ton of bodybuilders eat egg whites and tuna fish, and I know that works. I don't need you to run a scientific study on leanness on this certain diet. I fucking know what works because the thousands of bodybuilders that have achieved that, and myself, like, you know, through that process of that diet, or like this, or drop sets. I know not just by the science, and I don't really need the science. I could have taken Arnold Schwarzenegger and the drop sets that he made so popular to build peak muscle growth with thousands of people, hundreds of people, to like make that okay. So I think that's important too, of like a good coach is in the trenches looking at those things and be like, this works. I don't know why it works, but it works. And here's why. Here's the data that I've collected with working with people, and this will work. And we're going to try this with you. So I think there's a value there too.
For sure. So then, I mean, and then experience, it builds upon, or what you just said about in the trenches experience and anecdotal evidence, you know, to support your decision making. That also goes back to our earliest point, which was essentially like having experience to apply what you learn. So you can have certifications, you can have the education, but without real world application of the information that you learn through courses, you know, undergraduate degrees, etc., whatever it is, you have to be in the gym, working with people, communicating with people, connecting with people, public speaking, explaining what you know, sharing information.
Yeah.
All right. What makes it bad? Someone else. Go.
How do you spot bad?
How do you spot bad?
Unwillingness to learn, resistant to new ideas, inability to say that they're wrong, and
Unable to take feedback.
Yeah. Unable to take feedback. Like my mic.
Do you think having a poster child, like an endorsement, as like their biggest marketing tool,
that's so good.
I'm like, I think that's like
one person that did
kind of a red flag.
Let's talk about things like, okay, yes, kind of red flag, 100%. I'll give the really cool analogy, but before we do that, like the bad coaching thing, I think it's important. Like we've said, you might be a bad coach and you don't have to stay a bad coach. Just FYI, putting this out here for people who go to a CrossFit gym and they're like, my coach is really bad. They probably are. Have a conversation with them and see if they can change these things or be receptive to these things that you're bringing up. Like we've ruled out here a little bit. The analogy doesn't really matter now. Actually, I was going to talk about something else, but I don't want to get derailed because I think that's really good. Of like the bad coaches are almost everywhere, and there are more bad coaches than there are good coaches, hands down.
That is true. But it doesn't mean that they have poor intentions, but as well. So like they may be great people. That doesn't mean they're a great coach. What?
This is Cody. Cody's starting to coach. He said the ISO, the overreaching bent over row in the bottom could work because of the stretch. I'm just kidding. I'm an airhead. He demoed.
Cody's coaching now?
Yeah, he demoed and had people do this isometric wrong. It's my fault though for not including a video. I do a coach's video every week, and I didn't realize, he made me aware of this, that you can't see my body very well because I like demo when I talk, and he's right. So like it falls on me more than anything. I should have got out in the gym and did a demo of this movement for the coaches to make it more easy for them. So, you know,
gosh dang it, Cody, why don't you watch the video?
No, there was no video. That's my fault.
That's what makes him a good coach, because he's admitting his fault, and
good job, Todd.
He's gonna learn from that.
Yeah, and he was receptive. He's like, "Oh shit, all right, I'm gonna do it the other way." Cool. But anyways, bad programming, good programming.
Relying on flashy objects and people to create the hook.
I was just gonna say, like, finding the next thing on Instagram and just applying it.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
well, I think that's a bad training approach for the client.
Yeah.
But
right.
I do think there are. It's hard because like there are. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that I do that's like really flashy that I've like seen on Instagram.
I mean, there are people. You know, well, that's not necessarily like my point. Was if the whole program is just based around a games athlete that's like, I was fit, followed my program.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of a problem. And especially if they had a coach. Like if they were an athlete who were not self-coached throughout their top end experience and they had a coach,
right,
and then are like, well, I'm going to sell my own program now. Here you go.
Yeah.
And it's like, you didn't even do your own programming. What are you
What?
talking about?
Right. Well, that's yeah.
And I think like a bad program is one that doesn't have like an end goal, where it's just like,
I was
well,
gonna-
what's
I was
the
gonna
point?
make
What are
an
you? What's the
argument.
purpose of your program? Or kind of going back to like, I'm just trying to get people sweaty every day. I'm just trying to get people to move the body, which is not necessarily bad, but I think that they get sweaty. But if they have no
I think there's
linear
no bad
progression,
program.
there's no like point of what you're doing other than getting sweaty.
I
There's
don't.
no bad program.
Yeah, I don't think there's a bad program, to be honest.
I think there's only a bad program if there's no direction. Generally,
Even
like
then-
if the consumer has a goal, that's where. If the program has no direction, but they're just GPP, then CrossFit works. Constantly varied functional movements. If they're just trying to just come in and move their body and be healthy and fit, cool. Any program will work
Here's
that
what I'm
they
saying.
will stay
Here's-
consistent with.
Here's what I think. I'm gonna
So
develop,
it depends,
I'm gonna develop,
is what you're saying.
It does depend. Everything depends. Okay, if we look at the CrossFit model of the 10 general physical skills, there can be programs that leave you underdeveloped in areas of the 10 general physical skills. And for those people who don't know, speed, power, agility, accuracy, balance, coordination, cardiovascular, respiratory system, strength, and endurance. I missed one. Doesn't matter.
Flexibility.
Flexibility. There we go. Got all 10.
I don't even know how that came out of my head.
Hell yeah, Harley. We're the fucking
Crushed
yeah,
it.
we killed it. Anyways, you can do a program that is going to leave one of those 10 lacking. Now, if you just go with the basic 3 that most people like, is like gymnastics, strength, and endurance, again, you could be in a program that's going to leave one of those lacking, or it's going to overdo all of them, which then in turn is going to create concurrent effects, and then they're all going to suck. You could do a program that has way too much fucking volume for where you're at. But it's still a good program because one day you might be able to withstand that volume and get a good effect from that program. Like it's not like things are bad programs. That's the hard part of like the argument, and why I think there's this confusion with the consumer and the athlete and the clients and whatever word you want to use for the people partaking in your program design or anyone's program design. Is there's a misunderstanding of like what Harley was alluding to. It's not the program that's bad. It's what you want out of the program that's bad.
Well, so there
That's-
could be a bad program for you.
Correct. There's no
But-
bad programs.
yeah.
The program is bad for you.
As
Yeah.
long as the program that you're following aligns with your goals and the values and what you find important in your training, then it's probably fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as you then test, retest. You do need test, retest, which a lot of programs do.
Well,
Because you got to test.
that's
what-
only if you want improvement. But if you're just there to maintain status quo, homeostasis, and feel like you're fit, healthy, and moving, then it doesn't
Sure.
matter.
Sure. That's
If you
true.
have no
Like,
performance goals at
yeah,
all,
yeah. If we're talking about CrossFit as a program, I can get on board with you. But if we're talking about Burn Boot Camp or Orange Theory, I'm going to say that the program is bad because it's not, your goal isn't to increase your aerobic capacity and muscle endurance. So that would be the wrong program to be in,
yeah,
right? If you wanted to increase your aerobic capacity and muscle endurance, that's the right program to be in. It's not a bad program. It's an incomplete program. So we go back to square
Yeah.
one of like,
I'm not saying that it was good or bad. What I was saying was that if someone is just, because there's many people out there that are genuinely just showing up to the gym because they want to feel good for the day, that they've done something.
right. Yeah.
So
Which
then
is-
it's like there doesn't need to be
Slot.
Yeah, I said that a second ago. As long as
Yeah.
it aligns with your values and what you want out of the program, then it's a fine program.
But
So
yes,
if someone doesn't care about progress and they're just like, well, I'm going to the gym, working out, I'm fine. Many people do that. Then you don't have to test and retest. That was my only point.
I think, well, okay. Yes, good. But I do think as fitness coaches who own gyms or coach in a gym, this would go into like bad coaching. You need to now take that on your responsibility, even though the athlete or client or member doesn't want to test, retest, because you're a bad coach, because you have to know
But
that
there are plenty of programs that don't have coaches.
that's true.
That was sort of where I was at with
You're
that.
still writing the like someone's writing that.
Someone
program.
is.
Hopefully, unless it's AI. But like you have to know that you're delivering something incomplete, regardless of like their overall goal. Let's just say their goal is they want to move and sweat. Well, ultimately, what's that goal really saying? Like when-
Health.
Okay, but greater than that, think of the individual. Like that's true, but think of the individual. What are they really saying? Well, I just want to come in and get a good sweat on. I want to come in and I don't want to think about it. I just want to. What do they really want? Health, look good naked, lose some weight. You know, and then
Stress.
you could dive deeper into what people actually want. But those are like the three big ones: health, something, lose weight. You know,
Look good, feel good, be happy.
Yeah.
Sure.
exactly.
Yep.
That's not going to happen if you're not saying, hey, we need to increase people's VO2 max because we know that increases longevity. We need to strength train because it's going to increase their muscular development, which is going to help them look good. We need to do some type of long, easy VO2 max because it helps blood flow and circulation. Like,
So essentially, you're saying a program at the very least needs to be balanced, and it needs to be progressive in nature. So again, progressive overload, a principle, needs to be relevant. That's sort of what we said earlier.
Yeah.
And then just like Marissa alluded to, we were discussing misalignment of it's not a bad program. It's just misaligned with what you want from it.
Right.
If it's incomplete and or biased towards one performance metric or another, one physical quality or another.
Yeah. And I think a coach could take a quote unquote bad program and make it the best fucking program of all time. Apply to the person appropriately.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that even the right consumer for a mediocre program, like say there is progression here and there, but it's not that thoughtful and or yeah, I mean, it's just very undulating and kind of looks erratic on paper, but it's like, well, in 6 months, you are actually doing more work, in a given time. So there was progression, but like it's upon the person. That's sort of the nature of CrossFit. Like for the true, like level 2 approach to programming, right? Was basically just like, here's your hopper, here's your Excel sheet with all of the common CrossFit movements. It's like, which ones haven't you done in a while? Like that's kind of it. It's upon the person showing up to class to apply themselves. So even if it's a mediocre program, but it's balanced and they're willing to keep working hard because they like it, they'll probably still get fitter.
Yeah. Until they plateau. And then you need someone to come in and
overhaul it for sure.
Yeah. And like the plateau could be so far away. That's good. Damn, dude, you just gave me back to my thought about my example. So Harley and I, we signed up to do the Nick Bear BPN Ultra race.
That was the worst idea. I'm so glad we didn't do that.
I'm so bummed after watching.
Well, knowing this data, I'm glad you guys didn't do it either.
Anyways, okay. So I looked at it and they were posting, and I watched the race over the weekend, and every hour on the hour, you had to run 4.2 miles until you decide to DNF. And then when you stopped running, and it's going to go to the last person or last man standing, when you stop running, you got a horseshoe that said DNF. One person gets a horseshoe that says finisher. I don't want to ruin the end of the story though. But out of the 131 athletes that started that race, only 23 of them made it beyond 100 miles. So an ultra is 100 miles. So only 23 of those 131 athletes made it to the ultra marathon distance. And these runners are like, Harley and I were like, we perceive ourselves fit. We're going to train for this thing. If we get in, we are going to drop everything and train and like get after ultra running so we could do this race and like have a good time. So most people, I think, who have a brain, were probably in that same mindset. Out of 131, only 23 of them made the distance of an ultra. Of people who see themselves as fit and doing the right training to achieve an ultra marathon. Like, think about that. But yet we got people every day, all the time, trying to do all of these fitness things with minimal. I want to do this thing. When is it? 4 weeks away. What the fuck? So it's like, oh, it's not even bad programming. Now it's just bad athletes. But like, just adding to that, just so people will realize too, of like what Harley was saying of programs and like excelling in programs. 5 athletes made it to the 25-hour mark or something, which ended up being like 117 miles. Only 2 of those athletes continued to race, and they raced for 24 hours beyond the last racer, who was the 3rd place person. They raced 24 hours longer than that person by themselves, just the 2 athletes. They went a total of 267 miles Now the
That
race
is disgusting.
It's wild.
every hour.
Wild.
That's like 48 hours, dude.
It was a little bit
That's what I
longer
said,
than
it's-
that. It was
Yeah,
almost
like
almost
50.
4 days. They did it. They started on
wild.
Friday and they stopped racing because of a tornado warning and like tornado coming through Texas, where they, for the racers' safety, they had to stop them. They were going to keep going. Now the record of a last man standing race, world record, is like 420 something miles. I looked it up. They were on pace to do those two individuals. And that's one of the guys I sent you that I was like, dude, this guy would obliterate you. And he would. And that's what,
Oh, he was in that race.
yeah, he was one of the two.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sent me this German dude
Hold on,
speaking German on a
hold on,
podcast,
hold
and I'm like,
on,
I don't
hold
know
on,
this. What
Hold
he's
on.
saying.
Our viewers. My point to that is that 131 people started this race that perceived themselves doing the right training, the right nutrition, the right sleep, the right recovery, the right blah, 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 to come out there, work hard, put in their effort. Like they all HWPO'd it.
You two included, by the way.
We didn't get selected, but we would have also went out there and got cut. And I would have enjoyed my fucking DNF horseshoe, Heather. I would have been like, this thing is the best. Anyways, they all went out there with a sense of high level athleticism, fitness characteristics, and training. And only two, Marissa ran the percentage of it. And it obviously would grow as more people would get involved in this race. But like, think about that. It's like 0.18% of the total racers or whatever, or 1.8%. Sorry. You do the math. It doesn't matter. Who continued to race, which leads to the thing of like genetics and mindset trump really anything, because they could have been on a bad, now both of them have endurance racing coaches and ultra coaches, but either way, let's say they're on a bad program. It wouldn't matter. Their genetic capabilities, their mental acuity and emotional tolerance for that thing is what could push them forward. Now you add a good program, a good coach, a good training, good recovery, good sleep, all of that stuff, you're going to excel and succeed. So like to Harley's point, like, yeah, there's good programs and bad programs, but like you can manipulate yourself to be really fucking good on a bad program. And you can manipulate yourself to be great on a really good program. And it also comes back to, like Jace said, can a good athlete overcome a bad coach? I would say yes, but no. Even a bad athlete or bad coach adds value to a great athlete, because like what we said in the beginning, their heart's in the right place. Now, typically, does a good athlete or a great athlete bring a coach up? Yes. I think you can have a great athlete. If you care, you can learn with them and you will become just as good as a coach as they are as an athlete. If there was like one-to-one evaluation. What are you going to say, Harley? You got,
And they essentially get this boost of rapport by working with a phenomenal athlete. So then it gives them potentially greater opportunities down the road of working with other great athletes, which then will elevate them further, because they don't just get to work with one great athlete, but they'll then in turn probably draw other great athletes.
right. Which then you get more experiences, which
Correct.
brings us back to the main point, to circle it out. And that's where it's like, it's a chicken and the egg. You got to start coaching, but you need to be aware. Like if you want to coach, you got to start coaching. But if you want to get good really fast, or even just like, and when I say really fast, I'm talking 2 years time. I think someone could go from like not knowing a whole lot, get a base level education, do some certs, do some seminars, get some mentorship, start programming, start coaching people. And in 2 years, be just as good as somebody who didn't do those things and was not open to feedback and has been coaching for 15 years or has a PhD or doctorate in exercise science, if applying yourself. And like, that's why I think it was a good conversation for you to bring up about continued education, good coach, bad coach, good programming, bad programming. And like, yeah, there's going to be these elite human beings. That's why I brought up the BPN thing. And I wanted to talk about it because I think it's fucking sick. Is there are elite humans in the world that just need the opportunity, and they will shine and show you that like this crazy human feat is capable. Now, that does not mean, that's why I bring up the percentages, that you potentially are capable of that. You got to try and go through that process. But like, there are some people clearly who got cut from the race that are not meant to run what those guys ran. They're not meant to do it.
Well, like, what about the post that you sent us about Alex?
Oh yeah, that's also another. That's like a whole different topic.
Oh, well,
What I was thinking was
A whole
Yeah.
different topic.
what I've been thinking about lately is like you may not ever be the best athlete, but you can always strive to be better than you are now and your best self, right? Like,
Well, I don't
so
want
as an athlete and coach, right?
I guess it's more of a disclaimer. I don't want to
Yeah, for
discourage people from trying and like you're saying and pushing themselves to be better. And like us foolish people trying to sign up for this lottery, I don't want to discourage that. Sign up for the lottery. Now we also signed up and they know that that race was gonna be hard and it's 6 months out. So we would have had 6 months to prep, which is great.
Yeah.
But we're not foolish enough to think that we're going to win the race. We're not foolish enough to think that, oh, we're not going to get hurt doing this. Like I was fully like, babe, we're going to get fucking wrecked.
I jokingly was like, I'm gonna get one lap. I'm gonna get time capped at whatever it was. Like I was just
there are
joking,
people who
but
like just will do obscene amounts of volume, try to do this
For sure.
program. This elite person did this. This is the best coach. So I'm going to get him even or her, even though they're not in that position to get that coach quite yet. Or like all these things like, and just wreck themselves.
yeah.
So like to your point of like out a good coach or out a good program because you're genetics, you just might not be there with that. And then you're going to wreck yourself and cause injury and harm because of your stubbornness. So that's something to think about too, as onus on people. Well, as we have this conversation of finding good coaches, finding good programming, you know, do they have continued education? It's like if a coach is telling you to chill because you're just not ready for it, that's a sign of a good coach. And maybe you do need to chill. Because me looking at this race, I'm like, man, the amount of volume tolerance is so obscene that they went through. Most people can't do that.
Yeah.
They will wreck themselves.
Yeah, I mean, even back to that, you sending me apparently with the guy who was in the top 2, you were like, oh, get on this guy's level. And I just misread the data and I responded. I was like, oh, I think his FTP is 267. I was like, mine's 275. And you're like, that's not right. You're like, he's on a different level for sure than you. He's like, he would smash you. And I'm like, well,
I use the word
whatever it was. But I'm just like, yeah, clearly if he's an elite level endurance athlete, I don't think I'm an elite level endurance athlete. So as soon as you told me he was, and that I just misread the data on the screen because I just saw it like as I was walking out to my car, I'm like, all right, great. Like, yes, you are right. I am not an endurance athlete. That said, I'm fine with that. Like, I understand that. And you're like, well, you could train to be good. And I'm like, I am training. Like, but I'm not there. And I'm okay with that. But like that sort of came back to that thought process of like, I may not be the best endurance athlete, but I can still find my limit whenever that may come. You know what I mean? And through doing hard things and signing up for dumb races and lotteries and seeing what I get into with you.
You'll be really, yeah, no, I want to do it, dude. I don't know how we get in, but I want to get in next year. What's crazy is like that said, I'm coming for that endurance fool. Oh, on the bike. Yeah, Marissa.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That said, I'm coming for the enduro.
Yeah.
fool.
Let me know when you hold the 297 FTP or
And that was
hour-long average or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's like his adjusted FTP for like if it was an hour. Yeah, like you said, hour-long average. But like he actually hit like a 2 or a 3:29 or whatever it was. But anyways,
For 20 minutes.
Wow.
yeah, for 20 minutes, and then it was
That's
adjusted.
insane. 329 average.
Yeah, adjusted to 297 because you take the 90% or whatever.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, he's wild, dude. And that's why he ran for fucking 4 days straight.
Not that it matters, but how old was that guy?
They're in their 20. Both of them are in the endurance MTB age group of 20 to 24. I didn't really look up like specifically how old they were. I was just looking for metrics because I want to see how long they were going to race for. And when they started going, I was like, let's see how far, like how long these fools have the potential to go for.
Like to keep doing
Yeah,
these
yeah.
races, you mean?
How much is his body weight? Do you know?
I don't know. You could look.
He
it up.
looked kind of
They're pretty
big.
thick. They're
Yeah,
pretty
he looked
thick.
thick. He looked big.
Yeah.
So part of me is like, from the cycling standpoint, it's like, if he weighs 200, it's like, that's helpful from an
Yeah.
FTP standpoint,
Yeah,
right? Because then the
Not
the
from that
watts
running.
per kilogram. Not from running. I'm not saying that, but I was just saying like just a wattage output.
Yeah, 100 pounds. Marissa says he weighs 100 pounds.
Okay. Yeah, right. He's like this
He weighs
big
100
around, just like get the wig.
But yeah, I mean, again, like it's taking that away, right? So like
Oh, I saw a data point today.
I was listening. Marissa didn't really watch it because most of it was like on Instagram Live. They're gonna do a documentary on it. It's gonna be so sick, dude. I'm hyped. This is gonna be fun. I love watching. I am a spectator of this thing. It's crazy because like I would get on because they go on Instagram Live and start and show the end and the start of each round. And I would update Marissa. I was like, they're still running, and she was like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're still running. It's sick." It's like the coolest thing ever. Yeah, he's 60
So
pounds at the end of the race.
60
They were.
pounds at the end of the
Yeah,
race.
they were.
Okay.
Um,
So
yeah.
I saw a clip. I think
Just to
Adam
end it,
Rogers.
We'll talk more about that and like add more stuff. But just to end it with that of the responsibility of programs, I think that's what I was really getting at and using that example. And it's cool to watch these feats, but sometimes like take a step back and be like, maybe I'm not gonna be able to do that. And use your program and your coach and your data to drive decision making for the program and the intention of the program, because that's a good program. Use what you can do to drive the next step and the next phase of your program. The details of the program don't really matter as long as they're driven by, like I said, the test retest. And that's the point.
Sound principles.
Yeah. And I think
Good
that needs
guidance.
to be done with GPP as well, even if they don't give a fuck. Like they
And
need.
then last thing, real quick.
Yeah.
Give it time.
Oh yeah.
Give it 5 years. Give it maybe not 5
No-
years,
no
but give
one's
it 2 to 3
I'll give it
years.
5 years.
No one wants to hear 5 years, but on
Oh,
Trainer Road, someone asked like, how long is it going to take to find my genetic potential of cycling? And they said 5 years. They were
would've
just
said-
like,
I would've said a lifetime.
yeah, for sure. But that's like the truth. Like that's the truth.
bad
So
you
like
want.
when you look at a program, like for the people that bounce around from one program to the next, and they're just like, oh, I didn't really like that one. It's like,
That wasn't a good program.
if it's all CrossFit, it's like it's going to be close enough to what your values are. And if you need something more individualized, get a coach to make it more individualized. But for the people who literally give a program 3 to 6 months and are just like, nah, I'm good. It's like, unless it truly did not align with your values and or your volume tolerance and it might hurt you, then you have a good rationale for it. But give it time to actually work. Like give the work time to force the adaptations you're looking for.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. So that way you can run 100 million miles.
Exactly.
Wait,
Yeah,
said, says, getting improvements could take that long. I'm out. Peace.
See you later, fool.
Yeah, you're never going to reach your maximum potential. Quitter.
Dude, you never go in the games, Marissa. That attitude.
I've said that multiple times. It's ineffective.
It's ineffective.
It's bad coaching. I've learned that is bad coaching. Although people do need to hear that. Like you doing that is not going to get you what you want. That's okay to say to people, but I think the way I was approaching that was not good. When I've said it to her.
Yeah, you're not good enough, Harley.
Actually, that worked.
It worked.
Yeah, that worked. That one worked. Says,
That one worked.
oh, dang, bro. She's bringing the heat. This is this is smoke right now. Says the 20-year invested athlete. She's talking about you, Harley.
What, 20 years invested into sucking? Yeah, I know. I'm never going to the games. I know that.
Yeah. Worked on Harley, not Marissa.
Correct.
Hey, that's right. Different psychological backgrounds and tolerances and demands. No.
She's talking about herself.
Yeah. Well, you know what worked on somebody, our favorite person, eating those cupcakes.
Tubby, dude.
Yeah.
She's shredded now.
The most shredded person I know.
I know. It's called emotional trauma, emotional damage.
Hey, it worked. I don't regret it. If I had to do it over, knowing the end result, I would have did it over. Let's see. What does Jace have to say? I know Marissa said hashtag Tubby. Using 1% to justify the other 99%. What do you mean, Jace? Anyone got any questions? Any questions from the audience? I took down the 25-8, not because we hate them, but because I want to fix the banner.
We don't want them in our house.
I'm just kidding.
Just kidding.
It's summertime. Electrolytes.
Mm.
Go get it.
I gotta go. I have a dentist appointment. We've been
All
on
right.
here for too long.
No. We're helping the people. And you had so many valuable things today. Let's see. Here we go. Harley's going to go, though. You told Harley he sucked, and it worked. Oh, Harley's 1%. Yeah, that's true. I don't go around telling people who
Hey,
are
Jace.
not that good that they suck.
Hey, Jace, you suck. I'm just kidding. I love you.
I mean, he won the Send It. He did. He won the Send It.
He did. All right. Well, I got a coat.
Yeah, soon. All right, guys.
Minutes.
Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Share this video. And I know we just went over like theory and everything else, but you got to make your own judgments on what you feel is a good coach, bad coach, good program, bad program. And hopefully we gave you some context around those things. And we talked it out. And more importantly, we talked about the meaning of life at the beginning of this episode and living forever like the Highlander. I think that's solid, right?